Hi, my name is Joe, and the Tamara and Regan banner brought a handful of new unique toys for us to play with. We got Tamara's Time Pulse Echo on top of her out-of-the-box top-tier Omni-Tank fodder, and Sandstorm, which scales purely off of her defense. We got full-on Special Denial from Fogato's bow. We got that little robot thing. Oh, and Marin's there too. But arguably the most unique thing we got comes in the form of Regan's Shadow Shift 4, a new inheritable C skill that reads, when Canto triggers, enables unit to use reposition on ally. And this isn't treated as an assist skill. Keep that in mind for later. And you get some stats and healing. I believe this is the first time we've gotten a skill that lets us use something after Canto, and the fact that it doesn't count as an assist skill is very, very important, which I'll get to in a bit. In this video, I'll be going over what works and what doesn't with the skill, what game modes it'll be best used in, and some sample units, along with some light AI knowledge. Hope you enjoy. Hey, remember when I said I wasn't gonna pull for Regan on the last summoning video? Well, I got two of them. Anyway, so what works with this skill? I'll show some examples starting off with the base Regan that comes with the skill. So, you can just do something as simple as...
Close your eyes. Got it.
You initiate, Canto all the way back, bring in somebody like Deer Man, and clean up shop, right? And then he can Canto back, right? Simple, that's like the simplest example. But where things get a little more interesting is if you do the same thing and use it on Felix. Now, Felix's Lone Wolf functions based on him not being touched by an ally, assist skill, or anything like that. However, like I said in the intro, the skill does not count as an assist skill. It's wholly unique. So you can use it on Felix, and
I'll handle it.
What do you know? He can still self-dance. Right? This is the most powerful example of what you can do with this skill. But let's take that one step further. So now I have Regan, and I've added Sharena. So for example, you could smite them in, Canto up, have Regan engage, self-dance Sharena because they're within 3, Canto back and Shadow Shift Sharena in even further, and then, you know, she could just do the Sharena thing, right? Very, very strong. And this could be Winter Edelgard as well, any multi-action unit like that. So where things get really interesting is if you give Shadow Shift to somebody like Azura, who once again I think is the best user of this skill in the player's hands, and then you combine this with someone like Felix and Sharena, but also Emran with Celica Ring, who, when you initiate, or when she enters combat, she makes it so everybody can warp in within 2. So then you can do something like this, warp Sharena in, Canto back, warp Felix in, dance Sharena, and then use Felix's other action, and then have Azura come in, dance Felix, and then she can like either reposition Felix or Sharena, like for example, and then pretend that Haythrun is a ranged unit and it's the last unit on the map, right? You could box her in like that. Like there's so much playmaking potential with this skill when you put it on a unit like Azura in tandem with Emran and these self-dancing units, right? It's very, very fun to figure stuff out. As a quick aside, it's good to note that this Emran trick also works turn 1 against teams with Myr, because her warp bubble effect only takes place at the start of their turn. So I have my Emran, for example, able to hit 66 HP, so she can dodge traps, warp in, engage on most teams, and then party time. Moving on. So as far as ARD is concerned, it is possible to get this skill to proc. I'll show an example here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put Deer Man in range of Regan, and then Ursula is going to threaten Ophelia, right? So let's see what happens. So Regan should come in, do whatever to Deer Man, and then she's going to Canto back and Shadow Shift Ophelia because Ursula is threatening Ophelia's square, right? That's how the AI works. It'll use a positional skill to get the unit out of the way if they're in danger, right? However, something unique to note is if instead of a 3-range cav threatening that square, it's someone like Celica who can warp in to reach that threatened range, for whatever reason, it just won't work. Like, the unit won't get shadow shifted out of the way if it's threatened by a warp tile. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know why that is, and I can't find any reason why that is how it works. If you know, definitely let me know in a comment. But yeah, that's just an important exception to make note of. So another thing that doesn't work with this skill is using it on Croms or any unit with ruse or snag skills and stuff like that. So you'll see, I dance her, and then I come back and use the Shadow Shift reposition on Brave Crom, and nothing happens. And once again, this is just because that Shadow Shift does not count as an assist skill. Pretty simple, but I just want to have all my bases covered. And the last thing that doesn't work, just like with Crom, it won't work with Haethrune's Divine Nectar. So you see I have it on Azura. I'm going to come back, Shadow Shift Haethrune, and then Azura doesn't get an extra action. Once again, because it doesn't count as an assist skill, just want to make that clear. Alright, so we've gone over how the skill works and what doesn't. So let's get into some users that I would recommend. So first and foremost, like I said, Attuned Azura, I think, is the best user of this skill by far, because you get that preference dance, which gives insight, and it's just fantastic. But you get that cool dance, you have Canto distance +1, max 4, this is important, and then you Canto back, Shadow Shift somebody in, magic happens, right? And in general, I would recommend only putting this on units with Canto 3 or more, or with the potential of 3 or more. If it's any less than that, the playmaking potential shrinks dramatically, so I would only put it on 3 or more. But yeah, Azura, pairing her with Felix, basically in any mode, will be a recipe for beautiful things. It's honestly insane that Felix got his one flaw patched this quickly. Same thing with another Brave unit that I'll get to in a little bit. Ironically, OG Regan, I think, is a good candidate for this skill. She has Canto 3 in her weapon for the first 4 turns, a very powerful special that charges automatically, and yeah, I'm only recommending this if you have a fully invested, maxed out Regan, right? +10, part of your AR core. I'm not suggesting you throw this on a +1 Regan that isn't even refined like mine, because I don't use her. If you have a +10 Regan that is part of your core, I think this could be a pretty good play. Similarly, as far as a sword cav is concerned, we have someone like Tea Time Ira, who once again has that Canto distance +1. Incredibly powerful unit to this day. Definitely not what she once was, but I mean, this special can still cleave through a ton of stuff, especially if you have this unit invested with Submerges, XL, you know, stuff like that. Definitely can still put in some work as far as a melee cav is concerned. Last melee cav I want to talk about is someone like Brave Alphonse, and this is a bit gimmicky, I will admit, but he once again has Canto distance +1, and if you have another Breath of Life user, like on your Ike, for example, or Gatekeeper, or Attune Micaiah, any of those good candidates, and you run them with this unit, you can basically free up his C slot. And what this unit is best at is going in, eating a tile, because he has enough HP to eat the tile in ARO, probably kill something. If not, he survives, Cantos back, puts up the stones, and then stacks great talent. But now, if you put Shadow Shift on him, you can Canto somebody in, like Felix, like Sharena, etc., and make things happen, make some plays. Once again, this is a unit I'm not suggesting you just do it on. If you are a Turbo Whale and you have a ton of the Shadow Shift fodder to use, I would maybe consider it, but this is a pretty gimmicky edge case scenario. As far as ranged users go, I have 2. So Nidavellir, fantastic unit with a free C slot. Once again, Canto distance +1. And this unit is good in a ton of modes because he has times pulse, times 3 to himself, but also times pulse 1 to his allies along with Hexblade. This is a very powerful AoE nuke, and basically you can go in, nuke something's face off, Canto back, and shadow shift somebody like Felix or Sharena in. Same game plan as usual, right? Pretty strong. And then the other one would be any disarm trap cav like Kagero or Yunaka. And granted, these units have kind of fallen off quite a bit with the advent of Valentine's Myrrh and now the new Fjorm as like the premier far saves that tank everything. However, I still end up using Kagero a fair bit with Rearmed Lucina. That combo is still incredibly strong in ARO if you find the right team to use it on. So, if you have any of these disarm trap calves, I would recommend putting it on there to make some more plays. And honestly, like I said, these units have fallen off quite a bit, but there's going to be another dagger cav that comes out relatively soon. Like, it's about time. Something to keep in mind. Alright, so TLDR, put it on Azura if you have her 100%. This is the only unit on my recommendations that I would absolutely 100% recommend. By far the best user of this skill in the game, in my opinion. And especially if you have Felix as well, because these units were already best friends. Her weapon gives NFU and Null Panic, and Felix desperately needs the NFU outsourced, right? And the attack speed +6 and Null Panic are just icing on the cake. But also, her Preference Dance gives you Insight, which will stack with his Endless Tempest. So you basically have a double Insight thing going on with these units. But now, with Shadow Shift, you can dance somebody and then just reposition Felix in, and it doesn't trigger his Lone Wolf exception stuff. It doesn't turn off Lone Wolf. One of the most powerful combos in the game. Be prepared to see this combo in basically every game mode where players control the characters. Which reminds me, as far as ARD is concerned, I'm an ARD guy, and I think trying to get this to work is a bit of a waste of time. The stars pretty much need to align for this to even go off on ARD, and let alone trying to find a setup where it can be used strategically. It's just not going to happen. If they release a skill like this for Pivot in the future, which Pivot has different AI, it has more offensive AI. If you want to know more about that, Penrost made a great video about AI a couple years ago. I will link that in the description. But yeah, if they release a version of Shadow Shift for Pivot, I think there will be plays for that on ARD, but as it stands now, I wouldn't bother. If you don't have Azura, or if you have multiple copies of Shadow Shift, then just put it on your favorite Canto 3+ user, and have a blast. ARO, Arena, SD, any mode where you can control the characters, it is pretty freaking strong. So yeah, Shadow Shift is one of the most interesting skills we've gotten in recent memory. This is very much a player phase skill, and it's invaluable support for someone like Felix, who's already the most toxic unit in the entire game across all modes. It's honestly crazy that we got NCD support for Alphonse and now positional support for Felix so soon after their release in CYL. So, in closing, once again, put it on Azura, pair it with Felix, have a blast. If you have more than one copy that you want to fodder, give it to your favorite 3+ Canto user. This skill is super interesting, and I can't wait to see what people do in player-controlled game modes like SD. So this was my first attempt at a more informative video in regards to the game, so definitely give me some feedback here, boyos. Thank you all for watching, I appreciate you, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.